We all used to know what the government was supposed to do, didn't we? And whether or not what they did actually worked to our advantage, at least it was understandable. But now governments, and I'm including all the Anglosphere, by the way, not just the UK, from Wellington to Washington, well, going west, of course, it seems to be that their main purpose is not to make our countries run better, but to make laws intended to make our countries appear to run better. And so it is with the laws about migration. I'm Graniopteryx. And so I'm going to be talking about the reality of the illegal migration wave. Now, you Australians dealt with that a while ago by admitting you had a problem and doing something practical to deal with it. I wonder, does your government have the same willingness to talk about the real world now? Because so far as I can tell, that willingness has narrowed down to just one media channel, Sky News, which does a very good job. However, I digress. Let's just mention our little problem here in Britain and the USA with migrants. And in particular, since this example has cropped up in the past few days, I'm going to mention the case of Abdul Ezedi, who at the time of making this video is still not found. He went on the run, having poured what is referred to as an alkaline substance on a woman and two little girls, both of them under 5 years old, so far as I've been able to find out. I've quoted Professor Matt Goodwin before, and now I quote again, this time from his Substack. I'm interrupting to remind you to click like and to subscribe and share. Also, I'm constantly being told that YouTube removes subscriptions. So please click the notification bell and check that you really are subscribed. All the links to my other channels are in the description, including links to donation sites. I'm always grateful, of course, for donations, but simply clicking like is the best thing you can do for this video and my channel generally. Thank you. Goodwin says, we are led by a new elite. He refers to them later as a luxury belief class. If you haven't heard that expression before, luxury beliefs are ideas that have no real application in the real world, but are held by a certain group of people who like to think of themselves as the intellectual leaders of the country. And by subscribing to these beliefs, you're showing yourself to be a member of this elite class. We're led by a new elite, says Professor Goodwin. Left-leaning judges, lawyers, Home Office officials, supranational courts, hapless politicians, and the surrounding charity industrial complex, that's beautifully put, which seemingly has no problems at all with open borders, illegal immigration, and allowing the likes of Ezedi to stay in Britain. I saw the outspoken Professor Goodwin being interviewed on GB News the other day, and I can well predict that the likes of the BBC and other MSMs will decide that he's comedy gold. And it's entirely possible that whenever there's something like the Ezedi case in the air, they'll wheel him out to fulminate about the state of things, so they can say they've given the other side some airing. Then, when he's finished talking, the interviewer will say something dismissive that undercuts everything he's just said, but to which he will be given no opportunity to answer. And then the show will move on to something completely different. But at least they will get him on the show, as opposed to Tommy Robinson, whom they'll never invite. And this is for just two reasons. First of all, Professor Goodwin is a professor. You see his picture, he wears a suit, he looks smart, he looks the part, and they won't feel entitled to dismiss him with the same knee-jerk asperity as they'd feel entitled, well, obliged to do with Tommy Robinson. Tommy Robinson says the same things, but with a working class accent. But the second reason is the more important one. Remember what I just said about them interviewing Professor Goodwin, allowing him to speak and then making some dismissive, shallow and probably completely irrelevant comment right at the end. Well, you see, having done that, they can rely on the good professor to behave himself. The reaction shot would be something similar to this picture of him sitting back in his chair, tight-lipped and accepting his dismissal with a curt nod of his head. And then jump cut. And now let's go over to Simon, ethnic minority, for the weather report. If they tried that with Tommy Robinson, he would be more likely to reach over, grab the microphone and tear that final comment to shreds with some well-chosen critique. And that's why they'll not risk an interview with Robinson, but instead will interview Matt Goodwin. I'm not criticising Professor Goodwin, by the way. I'm just pointing out how this works. He might say unwelcome stuff, but at least he sticks to the rules. After which polite encounter, everyone in the luxury belief class will go back to doing absolutely nothing. And as an example, we have the case of Abdul Eedi, who came into this country in 2016 illegally on the back of a lorry. Nothing was done. 2 years later, he was convicted of a sexual assault. Nothing was done. And of course, a couple of days ago, he attacked a woman and her 2 children in the following way. If you don't like what I'm going to say next, look away now. He threw a corrosive substance at the woman and the children, then tried to run her down with what I presume must have been her car, before yanking one of the kids, a 3-year-old, out of the car, lifting her into the air and smashing her down on the pavement. Twice. Once might be considered an unfortunate slip, but I'd say that twice looked more like murderous intent. The question Professor Goodwin asked was, why was he in this country in the first place? And that's a very good question. He asked it on GB News, which means that the interviewer didn't answer him with some platitude about asylum procedure and something to imply that he was not bright enough to understand that. But there was still no answer, because actually there isn't an answer. I've been asking that question to myself. Mind you, I've been asking myself if there is actually anyone at the helm in 10 Downing Street at all, because it seems to me that the wheel is spinning around up there and no one is even trying to grab the spokes. Till next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the Graniopteryx design or Grambo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.graniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.